Have you ever felt, just completely stuck, caught up in your own thoughts,
Mhm.
maybe trapped by that critical voice in your head, or just tangled up in misunderstandings with people?
Absolutely. Or feeling like you're paying for the same mistake over and over and over again.
Exactly. Or um, just exhausted from trying to be someone you think you should be instead of who you are.
Yeah.
Well, if any of that sounds familiar, then this deep dive, it's really for you.
Yeah, today we're looking at a path to personal freedom.
Yeah.
And it's rooted in some really profound ancient Toltec wisdom.
That's right. And our guide is Don Miguel Ruiz's fantastic book, The Four Agreements.
A really remarkable work.
It really is. And this isn't just, abstract thinking or some kind of spiritual theory.
Yeah.
What we're doing today is a really practical exploration. We're diving deep into excerpts from The Four Agreements. It's like an actionable blueprint for self-mastery.
And it comes from this rich tradition, the Toltec lineage, which has this powerful idea that knowledge isn't really valuable unless you understand it, and crucially, unless you actually apply it.
Right. To change your life.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack the core lessons in these four agreements, these really powerful ideas.
We want to show how you can learn them, really take them in, and then, this is the key part, implement them. Put them into practice in your everyday life.
And it's not about small tweaks. It's really a pathway to break free from that self-inflicted suffering.
Yeah, to transform your experience from what Ruiz calls, pretty vividly, a dream of hell.
Into your own personal dream of heaven. It really is a blueprint for living very, very differently.
Okay, so let's start with a foundational concept. It's kind of mind-bending, actually, from the Toltec tradition. It's called the dream of the planet.
It's a fascinating way to look at reality.
It really shifts your perspective right away, doesn't it?
It does. The Toltec view is that we humans, we're constantly dreaming, like all the time, even when we're awake.
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, yeah. The mind is always active, always generating thoughts, images, stories. When we're awake, of course, there's a material frame, so things seem linear.
Right, structured.
Exactly. But that underlying dreaming process, that constant mental chatter, it never actually stops. It's like this continuous inner movie playing.
Okay, so from that individual dreaming, then comes the dream of the planet.
Right. Which is the collective dream. It's society's dream. Think of it as billions of smaller personal dreams, all tangled up, interwoven, creating the shared reality. The rules, the beliefs, the laws, religion, culture, our ways of being, it's all part of this huge collective agreement.
Wow. So what we think of as just how things are is actually co-created, like a massive agreed-upon story.
Pretty much. And what's radical is realizing how much our own sense of self gets shaped by this planetary dream we just sort of unconsciously buy into.
That really challenges your identity, doesn't it?
It does. And it leads to a really important question for you, the listener. Think about your own life. How much of what you see is solid truth or just reality? How much is objective fact and how much is actually, a social construct, a story, a collective dream you've absorbed?
Yeah.
Just recognizing that distinction, that your reality is partly a dream you're participating in, that's the crucial first step. According to the Toltecs, that awareness is where change begins, becoming aware of the lens you're using.
Okay, that makes sense. And it leads us straight into what Ruiz calls the process of human domestication, which, it sounds a bit intense,
It can sound harsh.
but it's actually a really insightful way to understand how we get shaped, right?
Absolutely. From the moment we're born, essentially we get hooked. The adults around us, parents, teachers, schools, religion, even TV, they use repetition. They capture our attention and they start feeding us the rules, the societal norms. They get introduced into our minds when we're really young and impressionable.
So we learn everything, what to believe, what not to believe.
Exactly. What's okay, what's not okay. Good, bad, beautiful, ugly, right, wrong, all of it.
And often without any real choice in the matter.
Often with zero choice. Our faith in this context isn't necessarily religious belief. It's our unconditional agreement to these beliefs that are handed down. It's when we say yes to these rules, sometimes before we even understand them.
And Ruiz actually compares this to training an animal, right?
He does. It's a direct comparison, using a system of punishment and reward. It's quite straightforward, actually.
So when we follow the rules,
We got rewarded. Maybe praise, attention, a smile, a feeling of belonging.
and when we didn't,
We got punished. Disapproval, criticism, maybe affection was withheld. We learned very quickly to fear the punishment and just as strongly to crave the reward. We get conditioned.
And the implication of that, for us, for you listening,
Yeah.
it's huge.
It's profound because this process, this domestication, it leads us to pretend to be something we're not.
Driven by fear.
Driven by the fear of being punished, the fear of being rejected, and that deep nagging fear of just not being good enough.
So we become copies.
We become copies of other people's beliefs, other people's expectations, and in doing that, we often lose touch with our normal tendencies, that, that wildness, that freedom, the curiosity, the joy that kids naturally have.
We trade it in.
We trade it in. It's a subtle surrender of our authentic selves to fit into the system.
Wow. Okay. And it doesn't stop there, does it?
Right.
It gets internalized.
Exactly. Once that external domestication takes hold, it morphs into what Ruiz calls an inner tyranny.
So we don't need anyone outside telling us the rules anymore.
We don't. We reach a point where we become our own domesticator, our own judge and jury.
And this internal system runs on the book of law.
That's the term he uses. It's our internalized belief system.
Yeah.
Highly personal, it dictates all our judgments, and it basically rules our entire personal dream, how we see everything.
Okay, and within that system, there are these two characters.
Yeah, like two main actors on our internal stage, the judge and the victim.
The judge.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Oh, absolutely. It's that relentless inner voice, constantly critiquing everything we do, everything we think, everything we feel, all based on that internal book of law.
It's the prosecutor.
The ultimate prosecutor.
Yeah.
Finding us guilty, telling us we should be ashamed, pointing out every single flaw, every mistake. It's that voice whispering, not good enough. You failed again. You should have known better.
And then there's the victim.
The victim is the part of us that just takes it, receives all those judgments. It carries the blame, the guilt, the shame.
For me.
Poor me, I'm not smart enough, I'm not attractive enough, I'm not worthy. And the judge, of course, usually chimes in, yep, you're right, you're not good enough. Total failure. It's this vicious cycle of self-condemnation.
And the truly unfair part, as Ruiz points out, is that humans, we pay for the same mistake 1,000 times.
Exactly. Other animals, they learn from a mistake, maybe feel the consequence, and then they move on. But us, with our powerful memory and that internal judge,
We just keep punishing ourselves.
we keep replaying it, re-experiencing the guilt, the shame, and often other people help. They remind us of our past errors, keeping the wound raw.
So all this suffering, it comes from a belief system we didn't even choose.
That's the core of it. It's why we suffer. And the key lesson to learn here is that this cycle, this constant reliving of pain, it can be broken. You don't have to keep paying.
And that explains that physical feeling too, right? That funny sensation in your solar plexus when something challenges those beliefs.
Precisely. That's the fear response kicking in. It happens whenever anything threatens those deeply ingrained beliefs, even if the beliefs themselves are totally wrong, even if they're holding you back.
It's like the book of law feels safe, even if it's a prison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the known quantity. So any deviation triggers that internal alarm, that physical knot of fear.
Which leads us to another Toltec idea,
Yeah.
the metote.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes. The mitote, or Maya in India. It's a powerful concept.
What is it exactly?
It refers to the chaos in the human mind. Like 1,000 different voices, all talking at once, conflicting, confusing, a dense fog.
A fog that stops us seeing clearly.
Completely. It prevents us from seeing who we truly are. It's fascinating that this idea appears across cultures, isn't it? It shows how universal this internal noise really is.
So this fog,
Yeah.
this mitote,
Yeah.
that is our personal dream.
Yeah.
The one created by our beliefs and agreements.
That's right. And it's incredible how effectively it blinds us. Blinds us to the truth, blinds us to our own freedom. We just can't see past the constant internal chatter, the self-criticism, the illusions we create.
It sounds like living with 1,000 TVs on different channels.
That's a great way to put it. Total chaos. And none of it really making sense.
And the core problem this creates,
Yeah.
it's not what you'd expect.
No. According to Ruiz, the biggest human fear isn't actually death.
Really? What is it then?
It's taking the risk to be alive and express what we really are.
Wow.
We spend so much energy trying to satisfy others, trying to fit into this impossible image of perfection.
An image we can never actually achieve.
Never. And then, inevitably, we reject ourselves for failing to meet this crazy, unrealistic standard we've set up. We create the impossible goal and then beat ourselves up for not reaching it.
And the result is self-abuse.
Constant, relentless self-abuse. Nobody abuses us more than we abuse ourselves.
Yeah.
Driven by the judge, the victim, that whole belief system.
And that self-abuse, it sets the bar for how others treat us.
Chillingly, yes. It sets the limit for what we'll tolerate from others. If you're constantly telling yourself you're worthless or stupid, you might unconsciously allow others to treat you that way too, because deep down in your belief system, you might feel you deserve it.
So the lesson here is self-worth is our boundary.
Absolutely. The lesson to learn and implement is fundamental. Your level of self-worth directly dictates the boundaries you set and maintain.
Okay, so there's a way out of this cycle of self-rejection.
There absolutely is, and it's a vital lesson to learn and implement right away. The more self-love you cultivate, the less self-abuse you'll tolerate from yourself or anyone else.
So self-rejection comes from trying to be perfect.
Exactly, from trying to measure up to that impossible ideal. If you can just start to accept yourself as you are right now, flaws and everything, that painful cycle begins to loosen its grip.
It sounds like an act of radical kindness to yourself.
It is. It truly is.
So understanding all this, the domestication, the judge and victim, the mitote, it really lays the groundwork, doesn't it, for the solutions the Toltecs offer.
It powerfully sets the stage. It's not just diagnosing the problem, it's showing us why the four agreements are so necessary and so effective. They're the way to reclaim our power, cleanse our minds, and literally step by step change our dream.
Okay, let's dive into the first of those agreements then. It's described as the most important, maybe the hardest, but it holds the key to transforming everything.
That's right. This is be impeccable with your word.
Impeccable with your word. What does that really mean?
Well, it starts with understanding the sheer power of the word itself. Ruiz really elevates it. It's not just communication.
Yeah.
No, it's seen as a force, a gift, a creative power. He even references the Bible, John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word. The Word is how you manifest everything, your dreams, your feelings, who you are. It's the primary tool of creation.
A tool of magic, he calls it.
Yes, unique to humans, but it has this powerful duality we have to understand.
Like a sword.
Exactly, a sword with two edges. Your word can create the most beautiful dream, truth, integrity, love. That's impeccability, that's white magic. Or, if you misuse it, it can destroy everything. Create fear, division, a living hell. That's the misuse, the black magic.
And there's a really stark example of that destructive power, isn't there?
A very powerful one, yes. He uses the example of Hitler, how through the power of his words alone, he manipulated an entire nation, convinced intelligent people to commit horrific acts by tapping into their fears, their prejudices. It shows the terrifying potential of the words black magic on a massive scale.
It highlights the responsibility we have then.
Immense responsibility. It's a profound lesson.
And this connects to the idea of the mind being like fertile ground.
Yes, exactly. The human mind is seen as incredibly fertile. Seeds, which are opinions, ideas, concepts, are constantly being planted.
And the word is the seed.
The word is the seed, and the mind is so fertile, it'll absorb almost anything you plant there. The problem is, too often, our minds become fertile ground for seeds of fear, judgment, negativity.
So the goal, the lesson to implement, is to prepare the ground differently.
Precisely.
Wow.
To consciously cultivate that fertile ground so it's ready to receive seeds of love instead. To change its default setting, if you like.
Which brings us to these spells we cast.
Yeah.
On each other and ourselves.
Yeah, it's quite something. We often use words like black magicians, completely thoughtlessly casting these spells through our opinions.
Like telling someone they look sick.
Exactly. You look like you're going to get cancer. Or a parent telling a child, maybe after hearing them sing, "You have an ugly voice." These aren't just comments, they're like energetic darts.
And the danger is if the person agrees with it.
That's the absolute key. If you, the listener, agree with that opinion, even if it's totally untrue, it can lodge itself deep inside you. It becomes a powerful belief, a spell that can literally dictate your life no matter the actual truth.
Like that little girl who stopped singing forever.
Precisely. Even if she had a beautiful voice, that agreement took root.
So the lesson there.
Yeah.
The only way out is a new agreement.
Yes. A new agreement based on truth. Truth is the antidote. Truth is the most important part of being impeccable.
Okay, so let's break down impeccable. What does it literally mean here?
It comes from Latin, peccatus, meaning sin. So impeccable means without sin.
Okay. But Ruiz redefines sin, doesn't he?
He does. It's not about religious dogma here. A sin is anything you do that goes against yourself.
Against yourself. How so?
Well, think about constantly criticizing how you look or beating yourself up for a small mistake. That's not just negative thinking. In this framework, it's a sin because it actively undermines your own well-being, your self-acceptance.
So being impeccable means Taking responsibility, but without the self-blame.
Exactly. Taking responsibility for your actions, but dropping the judgment, the self-flagellation. Self-rejection, he says, is the biggest sin you can commit. It leads to a kind of inner death.
Whereas impeccability leads to more
Life, more energy, more vitality. And using your word against others, gossiping, insulting, that's also using it against yourself because it creates negativity, it invites bad reactions, it poisons the environment, and that poison eventually comes back to you.
Cause and effect.
Pure cause and effect. Express love, you invite love. Express poison, you get poison back.
So the deep lesson to learn and implement here is impeccability is about using your energy correctly.
Yes. Consciously directing your energy towards truth, towards self-love, towards constructive creation. Just setting the intention to be impeccable starts the process. Truth starts manifesting through you, and it begins to cleanse that emotional poison internally and in your relationships.
It's an active purification process.
It really is.
And this hits hard when we talk about gossip.
Oh, yeah. Gossip gets called out specifically as the worst form of black magic. Pure poison.
And it's so common, isn't it? Almost seen as normal communication.
Absolutely. Misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
People gossip to feel connected, sometimes by making others feel as bad as they do or by creating a common enemy.
The computer virus analogy is good here.
It's very insightful. Gossip is like inserting bad code into someone's mind. It corrupts communication, spreads lies, fills the mental space with that chaotic mitote.
And intentional gossip is like hacking someone's reputation.
Exactly. Seeking revenge, trying to bring someone down. But here's the kicker. We are often our own worst black magicians.
How so?
With our self-talk, constantly using words against ourselves. Oh, I look so fat. I'm so stupid. This internal self-abuse, remember, sets the limit for what we'll accept from others. If you're cruel to yourself, you'll allow cruelty from the outside.
Okay, so what's the actionable step? How do we start implementing this?
It begins with awareness. Acute awareness of your words. Not just what you say out loud, but crucially, your inner dialogue, your self-talk.
So consciously choose different words.
Consciously choose words that share love and truth, and that must start with yourself. Actively tell yourself wonderful things. Tell yourself you love and accept yourself. It's a deliberate reprogramming. Switching from habitual self-criticism to deliberate self-affirmation.
And the benefit of doing that consistently.
It's huge. That emotional poison starts to clear out from your mind and then from your relationships. You build immunity to negative spells from others because your mind stops being fertile ground for their negativity.
It becomes fertile for love instead.
Exactly. Fertile for words that come from love. And your level of self-love becomes directly proportional to the integrity of your word. Impeccability brings peace, genuine happiness, just good feelings. It's a foundational shift.
So the call to action is, make this agreement today. Be impeccable with your word.
Yes, make the agreement and nurture that seed. Practice it, repeat it. Repetition makes the master. This one agreement, truly practiced, can change everything. Freedom, success, abundance, turning fear into joy.
And you can live differently, even if others around you haven't changed.
Absolutely. You can live in your own personal heaven even if others are caught in their hell because you become immune to their poison. It's a massive personal shift in your reality.
Wow. Okay. So with that foundation laid, being impeccable with our word, the second agreement seems to follow quite naturally, doesn't it?
It really does. It's almost a direct consequence.
Which is, don't take anything personally.
This one is about unburdening yourself. Taking off a huge weight.
What's the core idea here?
The core understanding is liberating. Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves.
Nothing.
Nothing. Everyone is living in their own unique dream, their own personal reality, which is often a completely different world from yours.
So their actions, their words, it all comes from them.
From their agreements, their beliefs, their internal mitote, their own stuff, not yours.
But we take things personally all the time. Why?
Well, Ruiz calls it the maximum expression of selfishness, which sounds harsh,
Yeah.
but it's insightful. We learn it during domestication. We unconsciously assume everything revolves around me. So if someone insults you, says, "You're so stupid," and you take it personally, you're essentially agreeing with them. You're swallowing their poison, making their judgment your own internal truth.
But the lesson is, it's about them, not me.
Exactly. Their opinion reflects their programming, their state of mind, not your inherent worth.
Okay. So implementing this gives you immunity.
Yes, the gift of immunity to poison. When you genuinely stop taking things personally, you become immune in the middle of hell. You just don't ingest their emotional garbage, their negativity, their
It
judgments.
means less drama.
Way less drama. You avoid feeling offended so easily. You don't feel that constant need to defend your beliefs or yourself. You avoid creating conflicts unnecessarily. You don't always have to be right. Think of the energy that frees up.
That's huge. And this isn't just about insults, right? It's praise, too.
Absolutely. Don Miguel Ruiz shares his own experience. He doesn't take praise or criticism personally. If someone says he's the best teacher ever, he hears it as their opinion. If they say he's the worst, again, their opinion.
He knows his own truth.
He knows who he is, independent of what others think or say. It's about cultivating that solid inner knowing that isn't easily swayed by external validation or condemnation.
And this connects to that idea of people having their own wounds.
Yes, if someone says you're hurting me, often it's because your words or actions have inadvertently touched an existing wound they carry, an old sensitivity.
So they're reacting from their past pain.
They're essentially hurting themselves by reacting through the filter of their own fear, their own past agreements. Remember, everyone is directing their own movie in their head. Your viewpoint is just yours. It's no one's truth but yours.
Which raises that question again. If we really get this, then negative emotions like anger, jealousy, hate, they must come from our own fear.
That's the implication. If you live without fear, if you live from love, where do those emotions fit? They don't really have a place to land.
Okay, so practically, how do we implement this? How do we stop taking things personally?
The actionable step is to consciously work on detaching your sense of self-worth from what other people think or say.
Easier said than done.
Oh, definitely. It takes practice. And here's a subtle but really important part. Realize that even your own self-judgments might not be true. Don't take them personally either.
So the inner critic's voice isn't necessarily truth.
Not at all. That's often the mitote talking, that chaos of internal voices feeding you self-criticism that you then accept as gospel. The lesson is to question your own negative judgments about yourself too.
And the benefit is avoiding suffering for nothing.
Exactly. You stop suffering needlessly. The Toltec suggests humans are kind of addicted to suffering, often unconsciously supporting each other's misery. This agreement helps break that addiction.
And practically, don't expect honesty all the time.
Well, don't expect people to always tell you the truth because often they're lying to themselves as part of their own dream, their own domestication. You have to cultivate trust in yourself to discern what to believe, rather than just absorbing whatever reality someone else projects onto you.
Okay. And there's that powerful, maybe difficult insight about relationships.
Yes. If someone consistently treats you without love and respect, their departure from your life, while potentially painful initially, is actually a gift.
A gift. How?
Because if they don't leave, you might end up enduring years of suffering with them, trapped in your own internal hell. Walking away or being left might hurt for a bit, but your heart will heal. And it creates space for you to choose what you truly want, to find relationships that are genuinely good for you. You learn to trust yourself to choose well.
So the outcome of really living this agreement,
Yeah.
it's transformative.
Truly transformative. Things like anger, jealousy, envy, even deep sadness, they start to fade from your daily experience. You become immune to those black magicians trying to hook you with negativity. You just don't bite.
And combined with the first agreement.
Together, they're powerful enough to break maybe 75% of the old suffering-causing agreements you've been living under.
That's incredible freedom.
Immense freedom. Freedom to genuinely say, I love you without fearing rejection. Freedom to ask for what you need without feeling guilty. Freedom to say yes or no authentically. You get to follow your heart, experience real inner peace, even if the world around you seems chaotic.
Wow. Okay. So first, be impeccable with your word. Second, don't take anything personally. What's the third agreement?
The third builds on these, focusing on clarity and connection. Don't make assumptions.
Assumptions. We all do that, don't we?
Constantly. It's a deeply ingrained human tendency. We make assumptions about everything. And the real danger is we then believe our assumptions are the absolute truth.
We swear they're real.
Even with zero evidence. We assume what others are thinking or doing, then we take it personally. Then we blame them for something they probably didn't even do or think. And then we react, often sending out that emotional poison with our words.
So making assumptions is like setting yourself up for trouble.
You're literally asking for problems. It kicks off this whole destructive chain reaction. Assumption leads to misunderstanding.
Which leads to taking it personally.
Yeah, blaming, then exchanging emotional poison.
Boom. A whole big drama for nothing.
Exactly. And Ruiz is really clear on this. So much of the sadness and drama in our lives Even what he calls the war of control between people, it's rooted right here, in making assumptions and then taking them personally.
Our whole dream of hell is built on misunderstandings.
In many ways, yes. Fueled by unchecked assumptions.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A simple one. You see someone attractive smile at you across the room. Your mind instantly creates a whole story, maybe a fantasy relationship, just from that one look. That's a harmless assumption, mostly.
Right.
But in our important relationships, it gets destructive. We assume our partners know what we're thinking, what we want, what we need.
You should have known.
Exactly. We think we shouldn't have to ask. Then, when they inevitably fail to read our minds, we feel hurt, resentful. It causes endless conflict because we expect telepathy instead of clear communication.
What's the psychological reason behind it? Why do we assume so much?
It seems to stem from our mind's deep need to explain, to justify, to understand everything, to feel safe, basically.
So even a wrong answer feels better than no answer.
Often, yes. Having an explanation, even a fabricated one, gives us a temporary sense of control, of security, but tragically, this often replaces real, open communication. We create stories instead of asking questions.
And why don't we just ask?
Often it's fear, lack of courage. Maybe we've learned somewhere along the way that it's not safe to ask questions, that we might look stupid.
Or that belief that if they loved me, they'd just know.
Exactly. That's a big one. We also tend to assume that everyone else sees life just like we do, thinks, feels, judges the same way.
Which leads to fear of being ourselves.
Yes, because we project our own inner judge onto others. We assume they'll judge us, reject us, abuse us, just like we abuse ourselves internally. So we reject ourselves first before they even get a chance.
And we make assumptions about ourselves too, right? Not just others.
Absolutely. And that causes a lot of inner conflict. We might assume we can do something and then fail, or assume we can't and never try. We overestimate or underestimate ourselves.
It's just we haven't asked ourselves the real questions.
Or we're maybe lying to ourselves about what we truly want or need, especially in relationships, like assuming our love will magically change someone we know isn't right for us.
But people only change if they want to.
Precisely. Your love won't change them. That's a crucial lesson in self-honesty.
So the solution is pretty straightforward, but maybe not easy.
The fundamental solution is simple, but challenging to practice consistently. Ask questions.
Just ask.
Ask. Make communication crystal clear. Find the courage to keep asking until you are genuinely clear about what someone means. And even then, be humble enough to know you probably don't know everything about their perspective.
And find your voice to ask for what you want.
Yes. Clearly ask for what you want while fully respecting their right to say yes or no without attaching guilt or judgment to either answer. It shifts interactions from assumptions and mind reading to transparency.
And the transformation from doing this.
It's profound and often immediate. Clear communication, born from not assuming, naturally makes your word more impeccable. It just starts clearing out the emotional poison from your interactions. All your relationships start to change, moving away from assumption-fueled conflicts towards clarity and respect.
Ruiz paints this picture of a world without assumptions.
Yes, imagine it. A world where everyone communicates clearly, impeccably, without assuming. He suggests all human problems, wars, violence, misunderstandings could potentially be resolved. It's a powerful vision of peace.
But it needs work, right? It's not an overnight fix.
Definitely not. These habits of assuming are deep. Awareness is the first step, always. But it's the action, the consistent, repeated practice of asking questions and seeking clarity that strengthens your will and builds the new habit.
So practicing this makes you a white magician.
That's the idea. You shift from being a black magician, casting spells of misunderstanding and drama, to a white magician using your word consciously for creation, giving, sharing, loving. It's an act of intentional, positive magic.
Okay, that covers the first three agreements. Powerful stuff. But they really come together with the fourth one, don't they?
They absolutely do. The fourth agreement is what makes the other three truly take root and become lasting habits. It's all about action.
And that is, always do your best.
Always do your best.
What's key about understanding your best here?
What's really liberating is realizing that your best is dynamic. It's not a fixed standard. It's never going to be the same from one moment to the next.
It changes.
Constantly. It depends on your energy. Are you feeling refreshed or exhausted? It depends on your health. Are you sick or well? It depends on your emotional state. Happy, angry, upset. And crucially, your best also gets better over time, naturally, as you practice these agreements and just grow as a person. The lesson is to be honest with yourself about your capacity right now.
So the guidance is don't overdo it, but don't underdo it either.
Exactly. No more and no less than your best in that specific moment. If you push too hard, try to do more than your best, you burn yourself out, deplete your energy, and often end up doing worse anyway.
Right.
But if you do less than your best, you open the door to frustration, self-judgment, guilt, regret. It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance, based on an honest assessment of where you are right now.
And one of the biggest payoffs of doing your best is freedom from self-judgment.
Huge payoff. If you consistently, truly, honestly do your best in any given situation, what grounds do you have to judge yourself afterwards, even if the result wasn't perfect?
None, really.
Exactly. You know you gave it your all in that moment. This breaks that powerful spell of self-punishment most of us live under, where we constantly second-guess and condemn our past actions. The lesson: your worth isn't tied to perfection. It's tied to your genuine effort.
There's that story about the man wanting transcendence.
Yes, the Buddhist temple story. It illustrates this perfectly. He asks the master how long it'll take if he meditates 4 hours a day. 10 years, says the master.
So the man thinks, I'll do more.
Right. What if I meditate 8 hours a day, hoping to get there faster? And the master replies, surprisingly, perhaps 20 years.
Why longer?
Because the lesson is, you're not meant to sacrifice your joy, your life, your present moment for some future goal. Do your best. I mean, that's 2 hours today. Be happy, love your life now. Overdoing it just leads to exhaustion and completely missing the point of being alive. It's about presence and joy in the action, not just obsession with the result.
Which links to motivation, doesn't it? Doing your best isn't about the reward.
Exactly. It's not about chasing external validation or a specific outcome. It means living intensely, being productive, being good to yourself simply because you love the action itself. You find joy in the doing.
Unlike people who just work for the paycheck.
Right. So many people suffer through their work, hating it, just waiting for Friday. Then they need to escape because they don't like their lives or themselves. It's a cycle of dissatisfaction.
But if you enjoy the action,
if you find enjoyment in doing your best, the rewards tend to follow naturally anyway, often in unexpected ways, maybe even exceeding what you hoped for. And crucially, without that desperate attachment to the outcome, life becomes more fun, less boring, less frustrating. There's no need to justify suffering through work when you're doing your best for the sheer integrity and pleasure of it.
So the lesson is, find joy in the process.
Find joy in the process itself, not just the potential outcome.
So implementing this fourth agreement, what are the practical steps?
It involves embracing learning from mistakes, seeing them not as failures, but as part of the practice. Honest self-assessment without condemnation.
And doing it for yourself, not for the judge.
Absolutely. You do your best because you want to. Because it feels right, it aligns with your authentic self, it brings you peace, not to please that inner critic or impress anyone else. That's true intrinsic motivation.
And this highlights the importance of action over just ideas.
Critically important. Ideas without action are just potential. They don't change anything. The source uses Forrest Gump as an example.
Ah, right.
Not necessarily brilliant ideas, but he achieved incredible things simply by always consistently doing his best at whatever he was doing without some grand plan or expectation of reward. It's about living fully, taking action, expressing your potential.
And making every action count, like a ritual.
Yes, making every action, no matter how small, taking a shower, thinking a thought, a ritual of self-love, a way of honoring life, honoring God in the broadest sense.
Life in action.
God is life in action. And the best way to show gratitude for life is by letting go of the past, the regrets, the should-haves, and fully embracing this moment right now. If you're stuck in the past, you miss the joy of the present, and that leads straight to self-pity and suffering.
This also reinforces our right. Just our basic right to be happy.
Yes, your inherent right to be happy, to love, to enjoy life. Your right to say no when you mean no, and a joyful yes when you mean yes. You have the right to be you. And you can only truly be yourself when you consistently do your best. Your existence itself is proof of the divine spark within you. You don't need anyone else's permission. Express that divinity by being alive, loving yourself, loving others.
And this is the agreement that makes the others stick.
It's the critical link. The first 3 agreements, impeccable word, not taking things personally, not assuming they only work consistently if you are always doing your best to uphold them.
You won't be perfect.
Never expect perfection. You'll slip up. You'll say things you regret. You'll take things personally sometimes. You'll make assumptions. But if you are always doing your best to live by these agreements,
Then the old habits weaken.
Exactly. The habits of misuse, judgment, fear, they lose their power. They become less frequent. And crucially, if you know you did your best, you won't judge yourself harshly even when you do slip up. You pick yourself up and recommit.
Repetition makes the master.
That's the key. Consistent effort, doing your best day after day. Through that, you become a master of transformation. You literally transform your personal hell into your personal heaven. The knowledge is here. It just requires practice and the will to defend these new, healthier agreements against the old, ingrained ones.
And it's about resilience. Getting up when you fall.
Getting up every single time without judgment, just recommitting to doing your best for today, living one day, one best effort at a time.
Okay, as we bring this all together, the Toltec path talks about becoming a spiritual warrior. What does that mean in terms of sustaining this new way of living?
It starts with understanding true freedom. It's not about external things, living in a free country or having money.
No.
No, true freedom is about the human spirit. It's the inner freedom to be exactly who we really are, unburdened by fear, by judgment.
And the main obstacle to that freedom. It's us.
It's us. The source is very clear. We're the ones who stop ourselves. We're controlled by that internal judge, the victim, the whole belief system. We love to blame external things, the government, the economy, our parents, God.
Right.
But the transformative truth is we stop ourselves. The lesson is profound. Look inward to find the source of your limitations.
And thinking about when we were free, Ruiz points to childhood, right?
Yes, remember being a very young child, naturally free, wild, joyful, not afraid to play, to express yourself, to love unconditionally.
Living in the moment.
Totally in the present, not worrying about yesterday or planning anxiously for tomorrow, just experiencing life fully.
But then, responsibilities happen.
Responsibilities arrive, the judge gets louder, tells us to be serious, work hard, make money, often at the expense of that joy. The freedom gets buried.
But we shouldn't blame our parents for that.
No blame. It's important. Our parents, teachers, whoever domesticated us, they were just passing on what they learned from their own domestication. They were likely doing their best based on their own programming.
So the crucial step is stop it now.
Yes. Stop the abuse now. Free yourself from the judge and the victim. Break the chain of inherited suffering. That's the ultimate lesson to learn and implement.
And the absolute first step towards that freedom, towards healing those mental wounds.
Awareness. Simple, profound awareness. Most people aren't even aware they're not free. They live under the tyranny of the judge and victim without even realizing it's happening.
So waking up to it is key.
It's the non-negotiable first step. Without awareness that you're in a prison, you can't even begin to look for the door. Nothing changes without awareness.
And the Toltecs talk about 3 masteries on this path.
Yes, 3 key masteries. First is the mastery of awareness, really knowing who you are beneath the programming, seeing your potential.
Okay.
Second, the mastery of transformation, the actual ability to change, to break the old agreements, to rewrite your personal dream. It's the how-to.
And third.
Third is the mastery of intent, which for the Toltecs is really the mastery of love. Understanding God or life or spirit as unconditional love, the fundamental force that makes transformation possible.
Okay. And there's that powerful analogy, the parasite.
Ah, yes, the parasite analogy. It's quite striking. The judge, the victim, the whole belief system.
Yeah.
It's likened to a parasite that invades the human mind.
A parasite.
Yeah. From this perspective, all domesticated humans are sort of mentally sick, infected with a disease called fear, which then manifests as anger, hate, sadness, envy, all the negative emotions.
And the parasite feeds on this negativity.
Exactly. It feeds on fear, thrives on drama, conflict, suffering. It's a powerful, almost biological way of looking at our internal struggles.
Wow. So is there a cure for this disease?
There is. And it's deceptively simple, yet incredibly profound. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness is the cure.
It's presented as the only way to truly heal the emotional body. And importantly, you don't forgive because the other person deserves it.
No.
No. You forgive out of compassion for yourself, to liberate yourself. It's about letting go of the poison of resentment because you deserve peace. You say, okay, I've suffered enough over this.
Who do we need to forgive?
Everyone. Your parents, siblings, friends, partners, anyone you hold resentment towards, even your idea of God if you're angry there. And crucially, most importantly, you must forgive yourself for all the self-judgment, the self-abuse.
How do you know if you've truly forgiven?
The test is simple, experiential. You know you've truly forgiven when you can see that person or hear their name or think about the situation, and there's no big emotional reaction anymore.
The wound doesn't hurt when touched.
Exactly. The memory might be there, but the emotional charge, the pain, is gone. It's not about forgetting, it's about neutralizing the poison.
And truth plays a role here, like a scalpel.
Yes, truth is the scalpel. It can be painful initially because it cuts through the layers of lies, the denial system we use to cover up our wounds. But it opens them up so they can finally heal properly.
Like cleaning out an infection.
Precisely. A healthy mind, like healthy skin, can be touched without pain. It's actually pleasant when it's clean and healed. The lesson: don't shy away from uncomfortable truths if you want deep, lasting healing.
Okay, so how do we become strong enough for this?
Yeah.
This spiritual warrior. What's the discipline?
The discipline of the spiritual warrior isn't like military drills. It's the discipline to be oneself no matter what.
To be authentic despite pressure.
Yes. And warriors have incredible control, but not over other people. Control over their own emotions, their own behavior.
What's the difference between control and repression?
Great question. Victims repress emotions because they're afraid to show them, so the pressure builds up inside until they explode. Warriors refrain. Refrain means holding the emotion, understanding it, feeling it, but choosing the right moment and the right way to express it. With intention. Not reacting impulsively, not holding it in until it festers. That's why warriors are impeccable. They have conscious control over their emotional expression and thus their actions.
Okay. And the ultimate path to freedom involves embracing death.
Yes. What Ruiz calls the initiation of the dead, taking death itself as our greatest teacher.
How does that work? It sounds morbid.
It's symbolic, but powerful. The angel of death isn't there to end life, but to teach us how to live fully. It makes us intensely aware that we could die at any moment.
Meaning we only have now?
We only truly have the present moment to be alive, to love, to express who we really are.
Which leads to that confronting question.
Exactly. If you knew for sure you only had a 1 week left, would you waste it suffering? Trying to please people you don't like? Fearing judgment?
No way.
Probably not. You'd likely choose happiness, authenticity, you'd tell people you love them now, you'd live fully.
So the teaching is, live like that every day.
Live every day as if it could be your last. Be open, be authentic, engage fully, love freely without holding back out of fear.
And this initiation, it kills the old dreams.
Symbolically, yes, it kills the power of the judge, the victim, the old limiting beliefs. The memories might linger, but their emotional grip, their control over you, is gone.
It's a death that leads to resurrection.
A profound resurrection. You get to be alive again, to be yourself, wild and free, but with wisdom gained through the journey. The angel of death helps you let go of the heavy burden of the past, freeing you to live vibrantly in the present. It helps you surrender attachment to things that aren't truly yours anyway, possessions, relationships, even your body eventually, so you can appreciate what you have right now with immense gratitude.
Okay, so bringing it all home. Let's talk about the new dream, living heaven on earth.
Yes, this beautiful vision. It starts with fully owning that core truth. The dream you are living is your creation.
You create your reality.
You have the power to create hell within yourself. And you absolutely have the power to create heaven. So the obvious question is, why not choose to dream a different, more joyful dream?
Imagine it. Seeing the world differently.
Yes, imagine seeing with different eyes, eyes cleared of the mitote. Perceiving love everywhere, not just in people, but emanating from trees, the sky, the light itself.
That's the state of grace.
That's the state of grace or bliss. Perceiving love directly from everything, even seeing it underneath someone's anger or sadness. It's a complete shift in perception.
And living without conflict.
Imagine living free of conflict with yourself, and therefore free of needless conflict with others.
Not afraid to express your dreams.
No fear. Knowing what you want, asking for it confidently, no fear of being judged, no need to control anyone, and no one controlling you.
No judging others either.
No judging, easily forgiving, letting go of judgments. No burning need to be right or make others wrong.
And no fear around love.
No fear of loving or of not being loved. No fear of rejection. Being able to say, I love you openly, without shame or justification. Just walking through the world with an open heart.
And not afraid of life itself.
No fear of taking risks, of exploring life, not afraid to lose anything, not afraid to be fully alive, and ultimately not even afraid to die, seeing it all as part of the incredible journey, loving yourself exactly as you are, knowing your inherent perfection.
And this state, It's actually possible. It's not just a nice idea.
It is entirely possible. That's the empowering message. This isn't some fairy tale. Ruiz insists others have achieved this state by doing the work, by changing their agreements, by consciously choosing to dream this different dream. It's accessible.
And the path there is love.
Love is the path and the destination. Only love, the source says, puts you in the state of bliss. Love in action creates happiness, creates inner peace, transforms how you see everything. The mitote disappears. There's clarity, joy.
This lost paradise humanity seeks.
It's right here, potentially. It's presented as part of our evolution, the evolution of the mind, maybe even the future of humanity.
Life can be easy and wonderful.
It really can be beautiful and wonderful. Life can be surprisingly easy when love is your default way of being. Choosing to be loving all the time, not because you have to, but just because it makes you happy, fills you with peace. It becomes a self-sustaining cycle of joy.
So the choice is stark, isn't it? Even though suffering can feel familiar, safe.
Right. Our identity gets tangled up in the old dream. The suffering can feel strangely safe because it's known. We get attached to the judge and victim. But ultimately, the Toltec wisdom is clear. There's no good reason to suffer.
Which leaves us with that final, really provocative thought.
Yes, that question to sit with. The only reason you suffer is because you choose to suffer. If you look at your life, you will find many excuses to suffer, but a good reason to suffer you will not find. The same is true for happiness. The only reason you are happy is because you choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice, and so is suffering.
My choice is to live in heaven. What is yours?
What is yours?
And with that powerful choice right there in front of us, that wraps up our deep dive into the 4 agreements. Just remember, taking these 4 simple yet incredibly profound agreements and practicing them. Be impeccable with your word.
Don't take anything personally.
Don't make assumptions.
And always do your best.
That is the practical, actionable path to really transforming your life.
Yeah, and look, it takes commitment. It takes a strong will, consistent effort, lots of repetition, like Don Miguel Ruiz emphasizes. But it is absolutely possible. Others have done it, broken free from those old agreements, and you definitely can too.
So maybe take a moment to reflect. Which of these 4 agreements really jumps out at you today? Which one feels like the most relevant starting point for you right now? And then maybe think of just one small thing you can do, one tiny actionable step to begin implementing it. Perhaps just noticing your self-talk today, or choosing not to react immediately if something feels personal.
Just focus on today. Live it one day at a time, this new dream.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive.
We really hope this exploration helps you on your own journey of discovery and transformation. It shows that getting knowledge quickly and thoroughly really is a shortcut to being well-informed.
And well on your way to creating your own personal heaven on earth.